Hello everyone, welcome into my latest live video. It's Saturday, it's about 5 o'clock in the evening here in Phoenix, and we wanted to just quickly update you regarding the upcoming end of support for Windows 10. We are nearly exactly 1 month away from that support ending. And to be clear, the support ending doesn't mean your Windows 10 is going to stop working. You're just not going to get any more security updates for it, leaving you more and more vulnerable each day you continue to use Windows 10 on the worldwide biggest network that's ever existed in the history of mankind. So you're kind of going out into this giant battlefield, and every day your enemy's weapons are getting stronger, but you're not getting any more armor. What you've got has got to last you while you're on the battlefield. Until you retreat from the battlefield, there's nothing more anybody can do to help you. So the longer you stay out there, the greater the odds are you will become a victim. You don't have any more proper defenses. So those defenses don't just turn off, they just become weaker over time to the point of being completely pointless. So the earlier you get a start on this, the better. When we brought out these machines, these veteran giveaway machines, these are all Windows 10. They don't have Windows 11 support. However, you can upgrade or request an additional 12 months of updates from Microsoft to buy you another 12 months to take you to October 14th of 2026. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to look for the offer that comes from Microsoft. Now, when we initially talked about this, many people said, I don't have an offer yet. That's because it wasn't your turn in line. You have to wait your turn in line. Well, how do I know when my turn is? Well, it'll be offered to you when it's your turn. Well, when's that going to be? It's really impossible to say other than between now and the end of support, October 14th. Now, I imagine, and I want to use this wording very carefully, that by now, a month away, a month and a day away from support officially ending, everybody I would think that is eligible to receive those updates should be given the option. So I thought we would demonstrate what it looks like and how you would activate it. It's free of charge, and it will get you that additional 12 months if you just, for whatever reason, want to remain on the battlefield with that old computer. You certainly are free to do so. And what I thought I would do is I've been checking on these computers, waiting myself for when it was my turn in line. And last night I decided to check it, and it's there now. So I checked it on this bottom unit here, but I have not turned on these top two units. So I thought I'll show you what it looks like, and then what I did to get the offer offered to me, to see that offer made. That way, if you're not seeing it, you just have to follow the steps I'm showing. In theory, I would imagine, now that we're 30 days out, everybody should receive this now that's eligible for it. Now, what does that eligibility mean? For the most part, it means if you're a consumer, you're eligible. If you're a business or you're running enterprise or some version of Windows 10 that was never intended for a home user, you're on your own, and you signed up for that when you put that on there. You didn't get it legally, and it wasn't something you bought at Best Buy. It was something purchased sort of in a back alley kind of a deal, online back alleys. And perhaps you did it to save some money. Maybe you think everything's the same. I don't know what's going through the minds of people that do this, but if you did that, you may not qualify. That being said, if you're just a regular home user with whatever came on your computer, Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Pro, then that's your eligibility right there. If you're running enterprise or education editions or workstation editions, et cetera, you're on your own because you decided for whatever reason the rules don't apply to you. And so these don't apply to you either. I just want to make sure we're consistent across the board. You don't get to have it both ways. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to show you what I saw last night. And I'd been checking it to see when am I going to get the updates, right? I don't know any more than you do what my place in line was, only that it's coming and you should receive it before the end of support, but it shouldn't be like the day before. It shouldn't be the week before. Like, they should give you some heads up on this. So let me jump over to this machine over here. Let me grab my HDMI input, see if we're booting. I can't tell if I push the button in all the way because it's facing you guys. I can't see it. So I think it's right there. Did I turn it on? I don't know. Let me go back and check. In fact, let me just put camera 1 a little smaller on the screen here. At some point, I will eventually figure out how to turn this on. I did give it power, yeah. I've got keyboard and mouse. I've got a network cable. I've got an HDMI cable. I don't feel any air coming out of it. I might have to step around and take a look at the lights. The lights on these are very, very dim, and the button can be pressed at the top or at the bottom, so it gets a little confusing for me sometimes. Since I don't use these every day, I haven't quite got the feel of it down. I also want to make sure my power cable's plugged all the way in on both sides here. That's all good. I'm not feeling any air coming out of it, so I have to assume whatever I'm doing isn't working. You know we're in trouble if you can't figure out how to turn it on. You know, getting the updates will be the least of your concerns. Am I turning on the right one? I think I am. I will have to, you know what, let me just bring it to me here real quick. I see a light on. It's very dim. I can't really tell that it's on. Very, very dim. When I push a button, I do see the light light up. So I'm not sure what it's doing. All right, let's try that. Also, let me make sure that I'm in the right. Some of these have 2 HDMIs, and some of them only have the 1. But now I've got it figured out. So I've got this keyboard and mouse plugged into it. And, oh, thank you, Jose Lopez, with a $1 super chat. Right on. So this is just sort of a last-minute broadcast here, so I can, you know, we're just about at the month point, and that really, in my imagination, if I were running Microsoft, I'd want everybody eligible to get a month's notice. I would assume that's their intent. I don't know for sure, but to run it any closer to the deadline is, well, it's not in Microsoft's benefit to create a lot of panic. So if I come over here to go full screen over here, so I can see it the way you guys at home see it. Okay, there's my mouse. And so what I do is I just go to the settings and I go to Windows Update. Skip that for now. Close that one out too. And when I go to Windows Update, you'll see here Windows 10 support ends October 2025. Enroll in extended security updates to help keep your device secure. And you would hit Enroll Now. To enroll now, you can enroll 3 different ways. You can pay for it for $30 a year. You can just sync your PC settings, not your data, your PC settings, to a free Microsoft account that you create. Or you can use 1,000 Microsoft points, which you may or may not have. So you'd click Next, and you're just going to follow these on-screen steps. Now, if you don't have a Microsoft account, you can make one. It's free. Once you've made the account, then you can activate the license key for 12 months of support, further updates on this particular computer. And with your account, you can do that a total of 10 times. In other words, you can enable free updates on up to 10 Windows 10 computers with the one account from Microsoft to just back up your PC settings, not your software, not your data, not your photos, not your identification, not what size pants you wear and what grade you got in. Look, Microsoft isn't, people think they're being spied on. The level of paranoia in the world today is insanity. Seriously, I kind of wish I was in the pharmaceutical business because I could make a lot of money selling people anti-anxiety medications. But regardless of that, once you enable the security updates, you don't have to stay signed in. You can go ahead and sign out. And it'll tell you when you go into Windows Update that you are enrolled in security, extended security updates, even when you're not signed in, and you're good for the next 12 months. That's all you have to do. That's the easy, free way. Other than that, of course, you can go to Windows 11, or you can switch over to a different operating system if Windows no longer meets your needs. You've outgrown it. Congratulations. Apple, Android, Chrome OS, and Linux will happily accept you into their open arms, okay? But for the rest of us, the question is, how did I suddenly see this here, right? This is what I've been looking for, this piece right over here. And you may also see over here on the right side, it may offer some information with regards to offering extended security updates over on the right side. But where I'm looking for it in particular is just right bold in my face where you can't miss it unless you're just completely not paying attention. But that only just appeared for me yesterday. So what was special about yesterday, you might ask? Well, these were sitting on a shelf and I put them out here on the bench, and I grabbed the latest, checked and grabbed for the latest Windows 10 updates. Once those updates installed and applied and I rebooted, from that point forward, the extended security updates were available. So I'm about to demonstrate that right now. We are live and unscripted, unrehearsed, and so with these other two machines, they were sitting right on the same shelf, right on top of each other like this over there, and I've been just checking the bottom one. That's all I'm doing. No sense doing the other two till I see some progress here. None of these were being offered extended security updates, and the question has always been, when? There's the anxiety. Between the anxiety and the paranoia, everybody just needs to calm down, relax. Now, when we reach October 14th, or even the week of, if you haven't done this yet, you're okay for about another 4 weeks. The updates usually come out every 4 weeks, so this last set of updates will be the last set you get otherwise. You won't get any more. So normally on the second Tuesday of the month, you would get free updates applied, and that will help keep you secure online when you're connected to the world, including countries that want to steal from you. They don't like you no matter where you are in the world, they're out to get you. So that part of paranoia is very much real. And a modicum of just practical precaution is highly advised. So I'm waiting for this machine to turn off. I don't know if it's turned off or not. Still have a yellow light on. Well, we're not going to wait for it. I'm going to say close enough. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my HDMI cable out. We're going to go to the middle computer. I'm going to get the keyboard and mouse into the USB port of this middle computer. I'm going to grab my internet connection into the middle computer. And they all use the same power supply. I guarantee that cut the power. And now let's turn this one on. And this one should not be showing me the extended security updates. So let me jump back over to, well, you know what, I'll just make the screen smaller over here. And did I turn this one on? I don't see a power light. There's one thing I have to complain about on these mini PCs, especially the HPs. Well, they're built like a tank. They can be very difficult to tell if they're turned on or not. The power light is very dim, and then there's like a hard drive activation light. I just heard it beep. I see. So apparently its battery needs to be replaced, and that's why it was taking so long. It's been sitting on the shelf for so long. So give that just a minute, and it'll sort through this date and time error that it's got, that it's reporting here. And can't read what it says. It might want me to do something. Let's see, system time. Yeah, so when they sit on a shelf like that without power, the CMOS battery gets drained far more quickly. Normally these are plugged in and turned off. If it's like most computers, when they're not in use, they're not normally unplugged and placed on a shelf. As a result, the CMOS battery has died far faster than it would have ordinarily. And it's a $2 battery we can switch out really easily, but I'm not worried about that right now. So when this boots up and takes us to the desktop, what I'm going to do is make sure we get the date and time correct, and then we're going to go back to Windows Update. Now, again, ordinarily, if a computer is just plugged in the wall, it doesn't need that CMOS battery. It doesn't really use it. It's only if the computer is off and unplugged that the battery it's going to be drained rather heavily. Otherwise, those batteries last, 6 years or more. And these could be the original batteries in these machines that are over 10 years old at this point. So, you know, what more could you expect? Now, if we come over here to the date and time, I can clearly see the date is completely wrong. So we'll just go over here to adjust the date and time. Let me make sure I'm not covering anything up. No, I still have camera 1 off. Good. Yeah, and so then we're going to come over here and I'll say set time automatically off and then back on again, and we should see date and time almost instantly change. Now, if I go to Windows Update again, go to Settings, and we'll go to Windows Update, we'll likely see no option here for extended security updates because it's not our turn in line yet. So once we check and make sure we get all the latest available updates and we reboot, now, as of September 13th, I have to presume everybody should see that. So if you're not seeing it, it's likely because you're not running Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro. You're running an ineligible operating system intended for education or enterprise or servers, which is not for home use and will not be offered these extended security updates, period. Or the other reason you're not going to get it is you have not put the latest updates in. So we're going to sit through this, we're going to let this update, and we're going to reboot, and we're going to look at our results live together. And if it works the way I think it's going to work, I don't know, I don't work for Microsoft, but if it works the way I think it's going to work, then it'll be the same as what we experienced with the first one, which is after the reboot, the next time we go to Windows Update, that ESU, or Extended Security Update offer, will remain available to us until we do something with it. It won't ever go away. You have to respond to it. If you don't, it's just going to keep showing up over and over and over and over. There's no way for you to hide it for later. You deal with it or you don't deal with it, and it won't go away until you deal with it. So you can't miss it is what I'm trying to tell you. So let me look in the chat room right now. Welcome in, everyone. Let me look in the chat just to see if anybody has any questions or concerns with this method. And if you're having any trouble that you're still not getting the extended security updates and you are running Windows 10 Home or Pro, do let us know. We can reach out to you either in our forums or privately to take a look at any assistance you might need to assist you. It should just happen automatically at this point. So while that's installing, let's see. Luke Chafee says hello. There's Rick Lakes joining us saying hello, along with Mark Gaines, Doman 2000, and Jonathan 45. I see Eddie Casanova, of course, Jose Lopez, and Chris Garrett saying hello. And Michelle Mason says hello, as does Omar Morris. Eddie Casanova, Scott, and Daniel Bedell saying hello. Daniel says, I have a tower computer that has a Core i7 in it. I've looked into info that pin set if I am able to upgrade to an iCore i7. So Intel Core i7s is sort of like a Ford Mustang. If you tell me you have a Ford Mustang 5.0, I need to know which decade, which year. Was it from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s? Intel's been making the i7 model of chip for somewhere around 12 years. So there's not just one i7. We need to know the exact model number of i7. And the first digit of that model number is the year. So 3970 would be a third generation. A 4970 would be a fourth generation. A 5970 would be a fifth generation. A 14600 would be a 14th generation. They're all i7s. So in order for me to assist you, you're going to have to provide a lot more information. Generally speaking, Intel only makes a compatible chip for 2 to 3 years, and there's about a 10% difference from one generation to the next. So if you bought a first generation of that particular model, and they only upgraded that model for 2 or 3 years, which is normal, then the biggest improvement you will see is 30%, almost unnoticeable to any human being. Your motherboard is actually what's holding you back, and your RAM will be holding you back in performance and speed. More than likely, it'll cost you more to upgrade that to see almost no difference than to simply buy something newer. Even if that newer thing is used, it may be an exact same cost with upwards of an 80% increase in performance overall. The computer relies on the CPU power capabilities as well as the motherboard, which controls the capabilities of the RAM and the storage. And if all of that is old and you're only changing one thing, I can put faster tires on an old car, but that old car won't drive any faster. So at some point you need to realize, okay, this thing's old. But do know that an i7 is a non-specific identifier that tells us more or less where the CPU sits in that family, but it doesn't tell us which family you're in. So we need to know the family. And then based on that, overall though, Intel is not AMD. And AMD will hold their technology back in order to trick their customers into thinking it makes sense to upgrade their chips when they're not upgrading the chipset or the RAM or the storage. Intel is far more honest than that. So AMD gives an illusion of upgrading when in fact you're just spending money for a very limited upgrade. If you're not upgrading everything else around it, it's very little benefit. And in order to move forward, in order to keep evolving the technology, we can't sit in one place too long and allow ourselves to be held back for backwards compatibility, because that prevents us from moving forward as far as we could otherwise. That's why companies like Apple, they'll just shut it down. Apple doesn't offer you extended security updates. Apple says this product's obsolete, you're done using it, buy a new product, end of story. And at some point you need to let go of the past if you want to embrace the future. If you don't want to embrace the future, then stay holding on to the past. You got to sort of have one or the other, in my opinion. So with that, again, without more information, I'm not quite sure what else I could advise you, but that's pretty much what you can expect. If you provide that information, what I'll probably end up telling you is it'd be a waste of money, in my opinion, to simply upgrade a CPU. Not without the board being upgraded, not without the RAM being upgraded, and not without the storage being upgraded. It doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to do all that, why not just buy a new computer? Sam Lazar joining us from Australia. Welcome into Sam. There's John Aleph joining us. John Aleph says, for me, the enroll now message popped up during the latest update. Yeah, that's when I saw it. Lana Dro says, I'm so glad you're doing this. Well, we've just been waiting for the green light from Microsoft. I don't check it every day. And we still have a month and a day. So I thought, let's talk about it now. A lot of people don't see these videos for 2 weeks after I make them, so that'll still give them 2 weeks. MR says, wants to know, Carey, was there ever a platform that you felt like, gosh, I really don't want to upgrade or move on from this? Yes, every platform. I did not want to move from DOS to Windows. I thought Windows was for babies. I thought this must be for people who just don't understand how a computer works, and now it's a coloring book, and I want to read adult novels. I don't want to read children's tales. But as the society started to embrace it, I had to learn either to understand it to a level of being able to repair it or to change my career. Those were my only two options. And when Windows 95 came out, there was a lot of hype and fanfare around it. People lined up around the block to get it on opening day at CompUSA, at places like that. And the idea now of enhancing Windows 3.1, since I warmed up to it, was far less resistance with Windows 95, having a better idea that this coloring book was actually quite a bit better in multitasking. And if you asked me before Windows 3.1, and said, well, look, you can multitask, I'd say, well, I'm a human being. I can only do one thing at a time. What do I care if the computer can do multiple things? I don't see it. It doesn't make any sense. But then I started using it in a way where multitasking made sense, where it didn't make sense in DOS. And all of a sudden now, oh, I can multitask. I get it now. In much the same way that if you don't have a car because you claim you never go anywhere, so why should you buy a car? If that's your logic, then I would counter your logic with the fact you don't go anywhere is because you don't own a car. And much of life, what we don't know, ignorance is bliss. But once we've had a taste of the good life, it's hard to go back. Once you've understood what you've been missing, and now you're asked to give it up, people sometimes forget how they used to live without it. And that's what computers and Windows have become. Windows 98 and 98 Second Edition were pretty minor upgrades to Windows 95 as far as any sort of repair or learning curve goes. Windows ME was mostly the same. They introduced a lot of new concepts like a 30-second boot time, system restore, but they had a lot of third-party driver problems that people blamed Microsoft for. So ME got a bad reputation due to third-party manufacturers. Nothing Microsoft could do about it, but then institute a new driver policy that said basically you need to sign your drivers, and if you don't sign them, Microsoft's tired of getting punched in the face for what the third parties are doing. And most of you out there today probably think Windows ME was the worst, but it was actually the best of them. It was the third-party drivers not following Microsoft compliance that made Microsoft look bad. And if you were Microsoft and that was you, what would you do about it? So Microsoft said, that's it. From now on, we want to make sure that the end users know if the drivers are approved or not. Because if they're not approved, and we tell you they're not approved, and you want to do it anyway, you will accept full liability and responsibility for any sort of loss of data or system crashes. It has nothing to do with us. So if you're wondering when that happened and why, it's because of Windows ME. So for me, running good drivers, I loved Windows ME, and I just can't understand what the hell anybody's talking about, other than they don't have a clue, right? They're just, I don't know, I put the drivers on and it crashed all the time. That's their level of knowledge. Okay, well, we have to accommodate those people who are going to be quick to point blame without really understanding and not even caring to understand. It's just a lot easier and lazier to point blame. So then, when Windows Vista came out, there was a lot of disappointment, and I skipped over it. I never installed it. None of my clients had it, and there was a lot of talk right out of the gate that it wasn't going to be good. That led to Windows 7, and I did jump to that. I skipped right over Vista, as did every single client. Every once in a while, I'd get a laptop or a consumer computer in that was like a Dell or pre-built that had Vista on it, and I'd handle it, but I wasn't having fun with it. I didn't like it. So then Windows 7, of course, we all loved Windows 7, and then Windows 8. I hated Windows 8. I skipped over it. Again, all the problems with Windows Vista were fixed in Service Pack 2, but the damage had been done to the reputation, and people are simple. The average public is just simple. And once they've made up their mind, this is crap, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get them to take another fresh look. Their mind is made up. They're very unforgiving and often quite punitive people. And they wouldn't treat each other that way, but you know, it's a big faceless corporation that they feel is out of control, but yet they continue to support it and buy their products. So it's a very, very much hypocritical behavior where people do the opposite of what they're saying. And I'm just kind of sick of it. You know, when I hear people talk like that, I realize this is the level of education of the person I'm talking to. So to spend any time educating those people is a waste of my breath. It's sort of like trying to teach my dog, I don't know, higher learning, and he's just a dog. He's not capable of it. So if we realize a dog is a dog and treat it like a dog and expect it to behave like a dog, we'll all be happier. So I end up, you know, categorizing the end users into certain categories, right? Some are people that look to point blame. Other people are are quite innocent, and they're very open about, you know, not understanding it, and they're quite they'll just tell you, I'm not a computer person. I respect that. Some people are very tech savvy and more tech savvy than me, and I respect that too. But the people who think they understand something that it's very obvious they don't have a clue, even just a modicum of technical experience, those are the ones who tend to be the loudest and cry the most, and those are the ones that get under my skin the most. And it's very difficult as a computer technician to offer a solution when someone's asking you for help and then telling you why you can't help them. So it's one or the other. I got things to do. It's, you know, I'm not their mother or their father. I'm not there to coddle them. If they want it fixed, I'll fix it. If they just want to say it can't be fixed, fine, then you're right. For you, it can't be fixed. For everybody else, it's not a problem. And it took me a while to figure that out. So because Windows Vista Service Pack 2 was, it was fixed, but the public had made up their mind, because we're talking about the general public here. I'm going to restart this. They had to come out with a new name, so Windows 7. And everybody loved Windows 7, but it's awfully similar to Windows Vista Service Pack 2. And of course, Windows 7 got better with service packs as well. And then we go to Windows 8, 8.1. I skipped over those, as did most of my clients. Windows 8 was fine for other people. I didn't want to use it. Windows 10 came out. I was all over it. Windows 11 came out. I wasn't happy with the way things were moved around and made even more like a cartoon bubble. Again, it feels like we're making this, if we were making it for 6-year-olds in Windows 3.1, then every generation since keeps lowering the bar. Let's say Windows 3.1 was for 10-year-olds, and then Windows 7 was for 8-year-olds, and Windows 10 was for 6-year-olds, and Windows 11 felt like it was 4-year-olds. And it's like, as we continue to dumb down society, society keeps getting dumber, and we have to keep oversimplifying to a point of absurdity where people don't even know how to turn the thing on. They're turning the monitor on. When you say turn your computer off, they turn the monitor off. They don't know. And what's worse is it's okay if you don't know. There's no shame in that. Just admit it. I don't know. But don't say this stupid thing. Stupid thing doesn't turn off. We are not turning it off. Anyway, so every single one, with the exception, I think, of Windows 95, was pretty much something I wasn't looking forward to. It was a year after Windows 11 came out, about a year before I started using it. A lot of people were asking on the channel, when are you going to start installing Windows 11? My customers are not guinea pigs for me. They're not, I'm not going to throw my reputation under the bus to support Microsoft. So anything brand new needs about a year to mature. New chipsets, new motherboards, new operating system, especially if it's not just a refresh of something from before, like a service pack, but rather an entirely new thing. First generation of a Ford Bronco, I wouldn't buy one. First generation of anything, that's a lot of money, and especially if I'm going to be held accountable to fix it when it breaks, I'm not going to stake my reputation on that. So it needs to be out about a year. Now, that's all I use is Windows 11. I can't stand Windows 10. In my opinion, Windows 11 is far superior. But it wasn't far superior on day one. Remember those updates and numerous upgrades to Windows 11. Since its initial release, it's not the same product as it was, so I'm not a hypocrite. Things need time to get polished and shined up. And if you want to be a pioneer and you want to be first, you can go ahead of me. I will patiently wait for you to get the arrows in your back as a pioneer. And when the path is clear, then I'll walk free. That's the attitude I have in business, because the livelihood of people's careers is on the line, that I hold the reins. And if I let those reins go, or I behave in an irresponsible manner, I can be held financially accountable for all of the losses of that company. And if that company goes out of business, My company's not big enough to sustain that kind of a lawsuit. My company will go out of business. That's a big price to pay for being first. One you might want to pay, but I won't pay that. Now, we've already rebooted and we're back to the desktop, and I appreciate that question. But yes, overall, I wasn't looking forward to any operating system. I like what I like and what I know, and I don't want to start over again. But it's always been for the better. It's always been for the better, and it's kept me employed since it's my job to know. But I did not have to know everything the day it was released. That's the main thing. Now, if we look here at the desktop, let me go full screen again, and we're going to go check for updates again. So you remember what it said before, right? It was not offering us anything, not a peep about extended security updates. I just get this out of the way. It's not required. It just bugs me. This too. Let's go back to Windows Update and we'll check for updates. Oh, look, it's already here. I didn't even check yet. So Windows 10 support ends October 2025. Enroll now. Once again, if you choose Enroll Now and you don't have a Microsoft account, it is free to make one. Once you're signed in and you activate extended security updates on this computer, you can sign out of your Microsoft account and you never have to sign into it ever again. It will stay enrolled for 12 months. And there it is. It happened live right in front of you. I have no control over this. There was no planning. There's no rehearsal. You're seeing it happen. And so everybody in the chat should also, if you follow this procedure and you have Windows 10 Home or Pro, you should also see that now. So let's see if anybody in the chat follows these steps and if they're still not seeing it. And while we're waiting, let's go ahead and do the last one here just because I can. So I'm going to come back over here for a moment and we'll go close this window and we'll shut this down here. Power that off. I hope this one will shut off faster than the other one. I'm holding my hand back behind it to see if I can feel the fan stop. Like that, all the lights have gone out, but I still feel the heat. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it looks like it's off now. So I'll just move everything up to this top unit. So HDMI, USB dongle for the keyboard and mouse, Ethernet. It's going to be hard to get the Windows updates without a network connection. And our power brick here. And then we'll turn that one on. Now that one got a more positive click to the power button. I feel the fan running, but nothing's happening. So we'll just give that a minute. Because these have been sitting on a shelf, and especially if the batteries have failed, they're going to take longer to boot. This one, on the other hand, came up much faster than I was expecting. I didn't even see a post screen, and we're already in Windows. Also looks like we might be in 4K. Let's see if I can make an adjustment here to the display settings to bring that to 1080. Yeah, it's definitely in 4K. Okay, now I can see. So back over to settings and back over to Windows updates. Right over here, update and security. We'll go full screen on this. And you'll see there is no mention of extended security updates here or along the right side. Look in both places. We'll check for updates. And likely we'll see the same number of updates as prior because I was updating these 3 at a time when I was doing these. These are the last 3 we have here. And we should follow the same process. Get those updates installed, reboot, and then ESU should be offered. And it should be that way, I believe, for everybody now. VX471 says, hey, Carey, I've been watching you since 2012, 2013 when you did a build with the Corsair Carbide 500R. Your video made me get that case. I still have it today as a backup PC. My main PC is now a Corsair 9000D. Well, you must really like, is it a 900D or a 9000? Some of those cases are massive. And 20 years ago, I was much more capable of picking those things up and moving them around. And now, pretty much really enjoying the mini PCs and regular compact PCs. The These computers start hitting 50, 60 pounds, and it's getting to be a bit much for me personally. So I'm trying to avoid large cases as much as possible. Patrick Manny joins us from Southwestern Ohio, saying hello. KK Bronson saying $30 a year per computer. Yeah, $30 a year per computer. Or if you enroll in the free extended security updates by just choosing to back up your PC settings with Microsoft, not your data, your PC settings for free, then you can enable free extended security updates for 12 months on up to 10 different computers with that one Microsoft account. Patrick Manning said his 2 Windows 10 machines were enrolled in the extended security updates a week ago. Nice. This is a reminder for people. I don't know when it became available. It could have been available a week ago. I just found out about it when I had time to check in on it last night. And that's why today's video was not scheduled. After I realized, hey, we finally see it, then if I'm seeing it, the rest of you should be seeing it as well. If not, let us know what you've got, and we can try and figure out what's different about your system that's not qualifying it. Aaron Werner said he uses Windows 11 and loves it. Yeah, I won't go back to Windows 10. I won't go back to Windows 95 either. I mean, it's been 10 years, for crying out loud. If you like everything to stay the same, maybe get into knitting or embroidery. Computers aren't for you. That's okay. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying computers are rapidly evolving as they have been since the day they were introduced to the consumer market. I don't know why you would expect anything different. Lana Dro said, I wish they kept XP going. Yeah, nothing like a 4 gig of RAM limitation. And a maximum hard drive size of, was it 32 gigs? Limitations. No USB 3, no Wi-Fi, or what is it, 802.11b. No NVMe drives. Careful what you wish for, because you could still buy Windows XP computers today. I'm sure Emerald Computers has many in the scrapyard. And I'm sure they work. Careful what you wish for. I mean, I'd like to say I wish it was 1984 again and I can go back to the arcade and listen to my music. But you know, it wasn't all good times. What was that line in Billy Joel's song? The good old days weren't always good, and tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems. I think that's a song from the 80s. So if you guys have questions for me, this is an interactive show. Please join us in the chat room. I'll do my best, my sincere best, to take all questions seriously. Sometimes people try messing with me. That's fine. Go ahead. I will do my sincere best to answer you, as will many members in our community here in the chat. Will also quite frequently offer alternative answers that may be more on point than my own. So don't dismiss answers coming from our chat room, especially from people in green or blue that have been here a while. So we're intended to help you. That's our intention. Carey, do I use roaming profiles? No, we don't use any roaming profiles. Nope. Roaming profiles would imply we're using account names and passwords, which then becomes another point of support that I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to. So instead, everybody's profile is the same. When I was working at the power company, we had some issues with employees bringing in like the flying toaster screensaver, and they're putting viruses on their computers at work. And this was driving the IT department nuts. It was costing the company tens of thousands of dollars, probably more, to undo the damage the employees were causing to their computers, that they were not authorized to make those changes. They were violating company policies. But the policies weren't clear at that time, and at least not to most employees. Some of those employees had been working for the company, and long before they got Windows-based computers, they were still using DOS computers. And so now that you can have a screensaver, which you did not have in DOS, people got a little loopy with crossing the boundaries of employment. So we ended up issuing a company-wide policy because this just wasn't going away. And we started to, essentially, the IT department would bill the department that we had to go and do the repair work for. So if you're in a particular department of the company and you call IT, you're allowed a certain amount of budget per quarter to spend on your IT repairs. It's weird because it's a big company, so the company hiring other departments, paying out of other departments' budget was a weird concept for me. It's like, who are you kidding? It's your own money. You're moving it back and forth. But the idea was to get the managers of those departments to not get things fixed if they ran out of budget, or they'd have to sacrifice the budget for, let's say, the copy machine and how much toner and paper are they using versus how much were they allotted for. So if you've got an employee coming in, he's going to have a party at his house on Thursday or Friday, whatever, Thursday? He's having a Super Bowl party on Sunday, and he goes to the office rather than going to Kinko's or whatever we would go to make copies. He'd use the office copier and print up 100 of his own personal little flyers to stick around the neighborhood and hand out to people at the office. And this was considered normal, but this was theft. And so what they started to do is say, okay, you've got a budget that's allowable for a certain number of impressions of copies, including toner and paper and maintenance. And if you exceed that, you have to stop using it. You're locked out, basically. Or you have to take the money from another budget. You're going to have to take it, rob Peter to pay Paul, as the expression goes. And so the managers, you know, they're in a pickle, because if they just let the employees do what they were doing, they'd run out of budget in those areas. But then the employees wouldn't be able to do their work if they can't use the copy machine for legitimate work purposes. They're locked out of it. And then the manager has to report into their manager, and they say, look, you did not hit your goals this quarter. Why not? Well, because we couldn't use the copier. Well, why not? Who was using it? So you want to keep your job as a manager. You need to enforce the rules to the employees you're responsible for. And this didn't happen overnight, but this is how it sort of was executed in my experience. And people got on board with it real quick, or it was cheaper for them to fire you. If you're not going to obey the rules and you've been warned probably twice, the third time you're gone. I don't care if you've been there 30 years. Completely, you've been warned twice, we're not warning you again. If it happens again, and they were told, if it happens again, you just might as well take a box, collect your things, and we'll escort you out the door, turn in your lanyard, your key card, and it was nice having you here. And at that time, they were specifically instructing help desk, IT support desk employees like myself. I wasn't help desk, I was desktop support. So instead of answering phones, I would actually go out and do the work. And they said it was a new policy that you would not refer to the computers at work as PCs. They literally gave this very specific and bold instruction that was very clear. These are not PCs. These are not personal. These are not personal computers. The computers you have at home is a personal computer. But the computer you have at work is owned by the company, and you are being paid to use that tool for work at your station, not at your home, at your station where you do work. This is now forevermore to be referred to as a workstation. It is not a personal computer. The idea was psychological, that when we tell people these are personal computers, they think they can graffiti them and write on them and and put stickers on them and all this other crazy stuff, which is a mess somebody else has to clean up sooner or later. Someone's got to get those stickers off. Someone's got to clean the graffiti off. And in many cases, they're not even the computers of the company, but rather leased computers that have to go back. So regardless of all that, that's how all of that sort of wound up being where it is today in the area of business. Now, you want to put stickers on your home computer and bedazzle it, have at it. There are people that put little bedazzled gems across their steering wheel. And what ends up happening is there's an airbag in the steering wheel. And so they made their car look all pretty, and they put maybe a, you know, the little covers that go over the steering wheel. It's nice and pretty and fluffy. If you can turn that cover without the wheel turning, that's an accident waiting to happen. So that's a big no-no. Secondly, any sort of thing that can shatter or splinter when the airbag goes off, it's going to happen without you realizing it. You're getting in your car, you're not expecting somebody to collide into you. Nobody ever expects it. And even if you see it coming, you have a split second before you see it, and it happens. For some people, they don't even know what happened. All they know is they heard a big bang, and when they open their eyes, there's a big bag in their face. So if you have this little bedazzled sticker on the front of your steering wheel, and that steering wheel airbag goes off, it splinters that into however little, how many dozens or 100 little bejeweled gems fly off into your face, and your face is going to look like a firework went off. It's going to scratch completely across your face. It could take out your eye. That airbag opens upwards at 200 miles an hour, and you're not supposed to put anything that covers it for that very reason. If you like to drive with your feet as a passenger with your feet on the dashboard, and that car gets into a collision and the airbag goes off, you don't have time to move your feet. You are going to have hips that are no longer attached. Your legs aren't going to be attached to your hips anymore. And those make for some interesting x-rays if you look at them online. This all happens very quickly. And the policies aren't there to be mean or to make you uncomfortable. In the case of business, they're there to make sure that you're productive and doing the job you're being paid to do, and the customers are being helped. Whatever your job is, you're dealing with some customers. Until you clock out, you're on the clock, you're expected to work. Any time spent modifying your computer is not working, and it's not your computer, it belongs to the company. With that in mind, we don't want to personalize roaming profiles because every computer is the same. So if a computer goes down, an employee needs only get up and go sit at a spare computer somewhere in the office, and everything they have on their computer is on everybody's computer. So nobody can feel like this isn't my computer. It was never your computer. The other problem with roaming profiles is sometimes, especially at the electric company where they were doing this, the power company, people would fill up the server. They'd get too much email. And if you've got 1,000 employees all with crowded emails, suddenly your server is going to cost $100,000 to replace. Or now you've got a new institute a new policy that people need to reduce the size of their email. They need to go in and delete things or archive things, or it's going to get deleted for you. If you don't handle it by a certain date, that memo went out too. You can't just leave a mess lying around. So again, by isolating all of that on the individual computers, then it doesn't affect everybody as it would on a roaming profile. So it's mostly about the idea of work versus the idea of comfort. You're there to work. At home, you're there for comfort, I would assume. And you're not there to be tortured at work, but you know, you're not necessarily going to get an ottoman to lay your feet on at your desk. All right, so I think we're good to go here for these updates. So we're going to restart, and then we'll see if extended security updates are offered to us the next time we hit Windows Update after these updates apply. I believe they will be offered. So has anybody here done this and you're still not getting the offer? Let us know what you've got, and we'll see if we can help you out. Michael Warner said, Carey, in a previous video you mentioned a server. What type of server? Windows. I didn't do any work on the server. Well, I did once and I was chastised for it. There was a situation, again, at the power company where there was a server down, and it was some odd hours, and I was there. And I said, well, I don't work on servers, but let me take a look at it. And I fixed it, and everything was back up and running. And the following workday, it was like a Monday, I think I came in, the boss immediately, as soon as I walked in, said, I need to talk to you. Did you fix a server over the weekend? And I'm like, yeah, I did. You know, I'm expecting kudos, you know, have a trophy. You saved the day. If you ever do that again, you can pack your stuff and get out. Did I cause any problem? Yeah, you caused a problem for us. We have server specialists that get paid 3 times more an hour than what you make. And by you doing that, you denied us that ability to get that extra income because you did it at 1/3 of the price. And if you ever do that again, if you ever leave your lane like that, you can just plan on packing your stuff and leaving. You already know what's going to happen if you do it again. So we're on the same page. Don't ever do that again. My brain about exploded. Wait, but I did a good thing, right? You did a good thing for them. You didn't do a good thing for the people you work for. So back then we had OS2 Warp, we had NT 2000, we had, yeah, mostly, there was a little overlap with Warp. And prior to that, it would have been Novell. There were Novell servers. Then before that, at Intel, it was Banyan Vines and Lotus Notes. Was it Lotus Notes? And Banyan Vines. Novell was big for a while shortly thereafter, followed by OS2 Warp and Windows NT, and then it was all Windows NT, and then it became Server 2000 and Server 2003, and that's about when my corporate career was in my past, and I was self-employed at that point, and I didn't touch servers after that. All right, let's see. Go back full screen. And settings. Window, well, skip that. Update and security. There it is. It wasn't there 20 minutes ago. That's how you get it. Click Enroll Now. Use your free Microsoft account. If you've ever had a Skype account and you've forgotten, then you already have a Microsoft account. You just forgot you had it. Regardless, it's all free. And you're just backing up your settings. Microsoft says if you back up your settings with a Microsoft account, not your data, nothing about you. They don't want to know anything about you. They really don't. You want to back up your PC settings, then that's all you need to do to get 12 months of free extended security updates. It's a very reasonable offer. And you can do that on up to 10 computers. Once you've enabled it, in other words, once you've done that, you're going to get a product key that's all happening behind the scenes that enables that feature like any other product key. You don't have to be signed in at that point. If it bothers you to be signed in, just sign out. Reboot the computer, check your Windows Update, and it'll say over here probably that you are enrolled in extended security updates, and it'll just keep telling you that. And as that gets closer to ending, you'll start getting warnings, probably within a month or two, probably around this time next year. Now, what options will be available next year, we'll talk about next year. There may be no options. We don't know. And some of us might be dead before then, and it won't matter anymore. Or you might get a new computer. There's a lot of things that can happen in a year. So to try and project that far ahead is unreasonable and absurdity. If you think you can do it beyond a game that you're playing in your mind, the accuracy with which you could guess that, you know, tell me now who's going to be in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it could be right, but it's such a, you're really just guessing. Nobody knows. So when we get closer to the Super Bowl, we'll have a pretty good idea who's going to be in it. But before that happens, right, you still have all this time that you don't have to have anxiety or worry. You're taken care of. So come, you know, if you do this and you're worried as that ends around August or September of 2026, about this time next year, then it's time to talk about it. Until then, you're just wasting your breath because it's not affecting you. It's nowhere close to affecting you, and nobody has any answers yet that are definitive. We didn't get these details with regards to Microsoft extending these updates, other than they said they would, and we didn't know any details for 6 or 8 months after they said it. And we could speculate, and we can gossip, and we can imagine, and all of that is an entire waste of time with regards to what's useful to other people. So if you enjoy having a conversation of, you know, would Batman beat Superman, go have those conversations. I don't mind, but I don't get paid by my clients to have those conversations. And this video channel here on YouTube is an extension of my business, because I feel like YouTube needs a lot more viable, useful, factual information. It's filled with opinions, it's filled with gossip, and it's filled with imagination. And if you don't have a trained, educated, experienced mindset in this arena, it's hard to know what's real from what's fake anymore. I would say for every 10 videos, 7 or 8 of them in tech are fake or disguised commercials made to look like reviews, or completely wrong. They're just wrong. Just a complete fundamental misunderstanding of the content creator explaining what they're witnessing, because they don't have the education or experience to really know what they're talking about. And the sad part is the people that are watching them usually know less. So it's sort of the blind leading the blind. So I come in and I see this stuff, and it sets me on edge because it's so wrong and it's undeserving. But the content creator's getting all the clicks and the subscribers, and he's taking home a paycheck. And there's no punishment for this. And many of the viewers that follow them almost follow them religiously, where they can do no wrong. And if you criticize them, it's like criticizing their religion, and they'll come at you to defend their own ignorance. They will defend it. They'll die on that hill, is what I'm saying. How dare you try and educate me? So I try and stay away from it. I try to alert my viewers to be wise to it, watch for it. A lot of reviews are just paid commercials. They're not real reviews. And a lot of information is being withheld by content creators because they're afraid they might upset a sponsor. So they won't even tell you something they know enough to tell you, but between losing a sponsorship and being honest with your audience, they're going to go for the money every time. Well, pretty much is what I'm witnessing. It's not even anything they hesitate on. It's a very simple, I'm not going to talk about anything that embarrasses the sponsor because I don't want to lose the sponsorship. And so they don't mention it to the audience. So the audience does not have a clue unless they continue to watch other content on that particular product to find out what the real truth is. You can't just listen to one person, because not only are there there's misinformation, omitted information intentionally, but there may be even a different attitude, which means the content creator may not be wrong, but they may look at it from a different view than, say, I would look at it. If a content creator is looking at what they like and I'm looking at what my clients are requiring of me, neither one of us are wrong, but we have a different reasoning, right? Different consequences for me than for them. And then you would just obviously connect or relate to the one that is most relatable to you. So it's really up to the viewer to decide. There's not a right or a wrong. You might be a black licorice person. You might be a red licorice person. Me, I'm red licorice all day, baby. You can keep the black licorice. If I'm not there, start without me. Ah, right. John Sparazich says, I don't have the message yet. So have you checked to get all the latest Windows updates? And have you verified you're running a Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro? If you're running any other version of Windows 10, you're not going to get it. If you have errors in your device manager, you also may not receive it. So you want to make sure your device manager is clear of any errors. What else can we check for? Make sure you have at least 10% of your hard drive available and free. If your hard drive is full, you're probably not going to get offered it because there's no room to put it on. So these are some things you can check for. Also, are you in the United States or are you located in another country? They do tend to roll out in big batches, oftentimes geographically. Depending on the Microsoft resources available in smaller countries, that could be a bit longer. But again, without Microsoft really coming clean about this process, probably for security reasons as much as for intellectual property, we can only speculate as to what's happening. So John says he has Windows 10 Pro, that he has plenty of space, and he's in Pennsylvania. And the computer, you checked it for Windows updates and you received the latest. You got the same knowledge base article I just installed on that cumulative update, 5039, I think it is. Okay, Cordius Technology says you're absolutely right. That's why I subscribe, because I want a channel like yours to stay around. I want authentic and a real working technician. Well, that's what I like too. That's why I like watching Doug Betts. That's why I like watching Scott Merrill, the Ask Your Computer guy. And we don't always agree. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean they're wrong. We just have a different way that we work. We've never worked together, and how we were trained and when we were trained and our personal preferences to what we like working on and what keeps us interested are all different. Sort of like being musicians. There's somebody who plays around with a guitar and has no clue what they're doing versus somebody who's been playing for years and years. They play a different style of music than maybe what you prefer, but somehow you work together and you compromise and you come up with a whole new genre of music that you can both get on board with, right? And then all of a sudden now, as listeners, we have new styles and genres of music where we're mixing things like jazz and rock, or opera and rock, or country and rock, southern rock. Like, there's all these different genres that exist through band members who aren't necessarily raised together. Some band members are brothers, you know, the Doobie Brothers, I guess, or In Excess was the Ferris Brothers, with only the lead singer not being a family member. But most of the time, it's a group of individuals like the Beatles who, you know, a couple of them grew up together and the rest were like, well, you know, who can we get? And things, you know, work themselves out, and we as the public, we get this amazing, incredible music from very opposing viewpoints, which I think is very interesting to music. I mean, nothing's more shocking to me than you think you know somebody and they come out and they hit you with something and you're like, I knew they were good, but I didn't know they were. If you take Freddie Mercury from Queen and you see him dressed up and acting like Elvis Presley on the song Crazy Little Thing Called Love, or you hear the weird, almost skeletal music of Another One Bites the Dust, where it feels like the rest of the instruments aren't in it. If you listen to Bohemian Rhapsody, which is this opera built into music, there's some incredible talent. But then you listen to I Want to Break Free, and you watch the video, and he's cross-dressing with a mustache. You feel like, all right, I kind of know this guy, right? He's kind of a rebel. But then, towards the end of his life, being a big fan of opera, it was his dream to sing along. I think her name was Montserrat Cabell, like a world-class soprano opera singer that he always idolized. And she was a fan of his, and they just never crossed paths until one day they made it happen. And they wrote a song together about where she's from, and Barcelona. And they were, such famous people. They said, we'd like to do this in time for the Olympics in Barcelona. And Freddie's like, I'm not going to be around. And they said, well, let's tape it now. And when the Olympics happen, this will be the opening song, and we'll honor you. You better do it now. And so out comes Freddie onto an opera stage in a tuxedo, without the mustache, clean shaven, bow tie. Who is this? Who is that? Where's the rebel? And he belts out the most rock vocals I've ever heard in this case, I guess, a Spanish opera. And so he sings in English, and she sings, very baritone. She sings, I think, the same lyrics in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, on a higher voice, a tenor. And tenor? Anyway, gives me goosebumps every time I see that damn video. Every single time that gives me goosebumps. And I'm like, how is that the same guy? How long was that talent hidden? Holy moly. And who would have thought that was his idol? An opera singer. Wow. So the point I'm trying to get to is that sometimes people, they have certain preferences at certain stages of their life and other preferences later stages. And so when I'm disagreeing with another working technician, we may be in different stages, right? I might have agreed with them, or maybe I'm not at their stage yet and I don't agree with them yet. But it doesn't mean they're wrong. And when I talk to an enthusiast, it's very different because they don't have anybody to answer to. They just look in a mirror. If they like what they see, job done. They're not being reviewed and audited and being told whether or not you can keep working, or you should look for another job, or that you'll get a promotion or a raise based on the decisions they're making, because they don't affect anybody but themselves. So it's all well and good to be an enthusiast. I think it's great as a hobby. But the minute enthusiasts start stepping into my lane and causing damages that they're not being held accountable for, and making my job difficult to correct misunderstandings that, well, I was told, yeah, you were told wrong, right? And then I would say, if you're stuck and you're not sure who to believe, it's time to go back to school. Because if you're that passionate about it, you should get a proper education. It's not going to come from YouTube. Calvin says, got a question. Once I enroll in extended security updates, will I continue to receive patches on Patch Tuesday and bug fixes? There won't be any more bug fixes. All you're going to get are security updates. That's the extended security updates. So just the bare minimum to keep you safe. There'll be no more feature enhancements and no more bug fixes. And you will get those on Patch Tuesday or out of band as necessary, just like you always have, until the new end of support date, which will be October 14th of 2026. Now, what options may or may not be available to extend it another 12, or at what cost, or if it's even an option at all, we won't know probably until summer, next summer. Yeah, Patrick Manny's got it. He says security updates only, no bug fixes, no new features. That's right. Chris at Goblin IT says, like Black Sabbath. Yes, that is very much Ozzy Osbourne. Who knew? I mean, he was been saying it all along. If you listen to the words that he says, he even says it in Crazy Train. You've got to listen to my words. He's talking about peace and love. He's shouting it. And it sounds like, death metal, but he's talking about peace and love, and almost all of his songs. And to me, to hear Ozzy Osbourne sing "No More Tears," that's another goosebump. Holy moly! Who puts the sound of whales in a heavy metal rock song along with an orchestra? It's the strangest, most bizarre, and yet I can't look away. I have to. If I hear that song, I've got to hear it all the way, because it's very rock and roll, and then it breaks into something completely different, which becomes orchestra and whale song. and then somehow finds its way back where it stopped seamlessly, and you're right back to continuing the song again with the same pumping guitars and rhythms. I don't even know how a producer puts that together, but it's epic, absolutely epic, and that's a great example of a multifaceted, talented human being that isn't just screaming into a microphone. I kind of feel like Marilyn Manson's a one-trick pony. He screams into a microphone, and it's good for what it is. I don't mind, but he's not coming out with any power ballads. Neither is AC/DC, for that matter. But I put AC/DC up at the top. Akadaka. I put them up there because they're almost like, if you want rock and roll, you'll come to AC/DC, because that's all we do. You're not going to get any ballads from us. I respect that. Scott says many people don't listen to the words in a song and get the full meaning. Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of that. There are songs I've listened to for years and never really understood what they were saying. And now with the advent of YouTube and the internet to look up the lyrics, I find the song, I see it differently. Oh, that's what they're saying. Oh. There's a song called by Mr. Mister. Is it Mr. Mister? Something About You by Level 42. I love that song. It's one of my favorites from the 1980s. Something About You by a group called Level 42. And when they get into the chorus, I was shocked to learn that they were saying, they're singing about love. And the lyrics are something like, well, I had no idea what they were, and I'm just going off the top of my head from what I remember. Something about going off into the stream of undefined illusion. I had no idea that's what they were saying, but wow, it was really deep, and I said, whoa. Take On Me by a-ha. You look at the lyrics to that, that's not at all what I thought he was saying. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. So when you have a great song and you can pair that with great lyrics where either one can stand on its own, I end up enjoying and appreciating the song even more than I did before. So I have rediscovered songs I thought I knew. And now when I go back and see the lyrics, sometimes by mistake, just happens the closed captions are on or lyrics are appearing, and I see those lyrics and I go, oh wow, now I like the song even more. On the other hand, it works the other way. Favorite song of mine, I mean, if it's on the radio, I have to turn it up, would be September by Earth, Wind and Fire. And I thought he was singing about a girl. And in the chorus, I thought he was saying Delilah or some girl's name. And they just made up vocalization sounds that have no meaning. Badia. So I look at the lyrics and I'm like, what's this girl's name? And there is no girl's name. It's Badia. Over and over and over. Badia, Badia. What does that mean? It means nothing. It's just there to fill in a gap. Oh. They ruined it. It was such a good song. And there's another one that comes to mind like that. Phil Collins sings a song, Sussudio, about a girl named Sussudio. It's a fun, danceable song, but just dumb. It's just dumb. Anything Styx ever wrote is catchy as hell with the dumbest lyrics you'll ever hear in your life. Are they serious right now? These are terrible, terrible high school level lyrics, but great music. But that's why I say, when you find out, like, the Beatles got to get you into my life, then it sounds like one hell of a romance song. It's catchy, it's got the trumpets and trombones, and not trombone. Yeah, trumpets, trombone. It's got this wind instrument section. It's a very R&B sounding, very catchy, rhythmic. And he says he's singing about marijuana. Oh. It's just, it was such a pretty, inspired song, and you just defiled it. I wish I didn't know. So it works both ways. I've always liked the song Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran, and when I saw the lyrics, I had no idea that's what he was saying. And everything just flows, nothing is forced. And I'm like, wow, that's really good lyrics. You listen to anything by In Excess, it's all very poetic. And then you combine that with really catchy guitar licks and rhythms, and man, it's just magic. But sometimes, especially in the 80s, we liked stupid music that didn't mean anything. It was just, let's dance, let's have a good time, nothing else matters. And for what it is, it's like bubblegum, it's junk food. But I liked a lot of the 80s, what they call freestyle music. And that was just, had no meaning at all, no message, just other than let's have a good time. Let's party and have a good time. But I'm spoiled with the 80s, right? Because we had artists like Prince and so many incredible bands that were so lyrically and musically talented. It was one after the other. I thought Foreigner was fantastic. I don't know that you could compare Foreigner and Prince, but they were competing against each other at the same time for, you know, Billboard positioning, and you just turn the dial and it was another amazing song. The band Heart, Blondie, Devo, The Cars, so many new sounds we'd never heard before. Crazy, weird electronic instruments. Yeah. Nowadays, I hear a good song about 4, 5, 6 times a year. I was hearing great music 4, 5, 6 times a week. It was just pounding out hit after hit after hit from all these artists all over the world. And a lot of it was still coming from Britain at that time. A lot of the bands like Duran Duran, etc., those were all British bands, Pet Shop Boys. Yeah. Teresa Reyes says they live in Puerto Rico, and that may be why they haven't received it yet. I would imagine you should be getting it. At this point, if you're having some concern that the extended security updates have not been offered to you yet, I wouldn't panic, but I would be very much on the lookout to find out what's going on. Because when you're within 30 days, you're starting to draw close, and it may be an indication something's wrong. Maybe. All right, so I think I'm done with this example. You've seen live demonstration of how I brought that ESU up, and it was just, again, waiting my turn in line. I'm only imagining that everybody's turn should be up by now, since we're at the 30-day mark. Starting tomorrow, it's 30 days, and I just can't imagine Microsoft would draw it any closer than that. So not receiving the extended security updates may be indicative that something in your computer does not qualify you. Maybe. If you keep an eye out for it in the next, say, 2 weeks, you still don't have it. So now we're into October. By October 1st, if you still don't have it, something's wrong. Something is definitely wrong with your computer that is making you ineligible. And then that would require, because everybody will be ineligible, those who are ineligible will all be ineligible for different reasons. It won't be one thing I can tell you all to do. So that'll be on a case-by-case basis. We can take a look at it and see what's holding you up. But hopefully in the next 2 weeks, you'll see it. But right now, my feeling is, if you're not seeing it now, I don't think you're going to see it ever. Because whatever it is that's preventing it, until you change that, I don't expect it's going to change. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it just hasn't been your turn yet. I just can't imagine Microsoft would cut it that close, but what do I know? Everybody wants to talk about music. There's a few songs that I wish I saw more music reactors reacting to. And I'll show you here. I think I can just come over to this computer and use this. Let's jump over to this machine here. I don't want the copyright issues, so I'll just show you these videos, and if you guys are curious and you want to check them out. There is a Native American band that I stumbled on that does songs that are very ambient, something I might listen to on headphones when I'm trying to relax. So if we go over here to YouTube, most of you have probably never heard of this band. And it's a certain genre of music that may not be your thing, but they're called Brûlé. And they have a song called, I think it's Spirit Horses. Yeah. And I cannot speak highly enough about the ambience of this. It's very much like Enigma or Enya. If you've ever heard Enigma, many people have. It's a very relaxed, heavy beat, monks chanting, Return to Innocence, and Sadness would be the two big hits they had. If I just want meaningless dance music, I look for a band that combines 1920s swing music with electronic dance music of today. It's a very strange combination. And that band is Aaron Chupa. And Aaron Chupa, with little sis Nora, because his little sister sings, and her name is Nora. You following? Aaron is the guy's name, Swedish. Aaron Chupa is his name. Nora Chupa is his sister. And little swing and trombone, a very sexual and innuendo song. It's clever and funny. It's done with a wink. Rave in the Grave is another one. All these are kind of done with a wink. Hole in the Roof is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they put a whole musical production on. I mean, this could be something you see on Broadway. And it's really, really, really good. It's really good. If you watch it once, you're probably going to watch it 2 or 3 more times. It's so catchy and it's so stupid. But at the same time, that's what it's supposed to be. And it makes it very clear. And it's this weird mix of 1920s swing music with electronic dance music of today. It's the weirdest combination. And I'd love to see more, music reactors react to this kind of music. And then, of course, the 80s freestyle music. There is a guy who reacts to most of it, and he is called Derek Reacts, I think. Yeah, and he'll do a lot of different music, but a lot of the 80s retro music, like Expose. Watching him watch it is point of no return. Seeing his reactions are just a lot of fun for me, because I remember my reaction the first time I heard it. And the problem is the YouTube algorithm isn't recommending these to me anymore. Probably because every time they play them, they gotta check to the copyright owner. It's probably a lot of a lot involved with associating the copyright holder, the amount of money it made, cutting a check specifically to them versus the content creator. That's just a lot of processing. But I don't know. I don't know why they're not recommending these these reaction videos anymore. And then there's a couple I like called the Wolf Hunters, and they're doing a lot of like songs I listened to in the '80s, and they're a little younger than me, and I'm only interested in watching her. She has got the best facial expressions. He just sits there and smiles with his mouth agape. But she'll have her eyes really big, and she'll make a surprise face, or she'll smile, or she'll squint, reacting to what she's hearing the lyrics say, which I don't know if it's over the top and she's doing that to pull faces, or if that's just how expressive she is. But it's really enjoyable just to watch, and just watch the right side of the screen and see the way she reacts. It's hilarious. Yeah, there's a full face right there. Anyway, great way to spend a few hours on YouTube. But those are some of the songs, as well as countless others that were big one-hit wonders back in the '80s that really don't get any play today. Feels unjust that some videos you'll have 20 different reaction videos to that one song. But there's another song that was a great hit about the same time, and nobody's got a reaction video to it. Bums me out. BX471 said he liked the Rolling Stones, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, T-Rex, Meatloaf, the Kinks. So you're probably born about 10 or 20 years before me. The era of being a teenager in the 1980s, probably whatever era that you were a teenager in, probably defines your style of music taste. Maybe not so much today, because the world's so split into all these little segments that there are bands now that can tour and sell out, I wouldn't say a stadium, but they can sell out a pretty good size auditorium. And I don't know who they are or where they came from, yet they've got this huge following. A band like the Struts, I mean, the Struts, I think they've had 1 or 2 songs on the radio, but they'll sell out smaller venues. And if you don't know who they are, I wouldn't be surprised, sadly. They don't get the attention they deserve, in my opinion. And they're one of the more popular, not popular bands, if that makes any sense. Buck D1 says, Carey, I recently heard that you should update the BIOS only if you're having issues, but I'm not sure if that's right. What are my thoughts? Well, it's something that I've discussed ad nauseum here over the last 15 years, so I'm guessing you're new here, and if so, welcome. I'm a computer technician, and what I do for a living holds me accountable and responsible to these computers I service, upgrade, repair, or sell. When a BIOS update comes out, there's a reason why the BIOS update comes out. They didn't just do it for fun. Some developer is paid to not only develop, but then test, and then another website developer is paid to then put that on the website with a description, and the bandwidth is paid for by the company to provide that BIOS update for free. Under what circumstances would something be so desperate that they would go through all that expense, they being the company, paying all those different employees to release an update that you shouldn't apply? So my attitude has always been, I want to be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. I want to prevent the problems before they become big problems. I can put out a little fire all by myself, but a forest fire, I can't. No. But every forest fire started as a very small fire that could have been put out. And had that fire been put out when it was small, and there's exceptions, right? Big winds and things. But generally speaking, follow me on this analogy. It's not perfect. Somebody could have made a modest effort and put that fire out and prevented an inferno. Proactive. Otherwise, you're battling an inferno. Reactive. I don't like stress. If I can avoid it and I can stay calm, relaxed, cool, and we can avoid these emergencies. And nothing in life is guaranteed, but if we can take reasonable steps to reduce the likelihood of having emergencies, so we reduce the number of emergencies overall, that's what I'm interested in. If you wait until you need the BIOS, then you're being reactive. If you apply the BIOS now, you'll never be affected by what it's fixing ever, thereby avoiding a problem that you don't even know you would have had to begin with, but now I know for a fact you won't. If you own a Dell or an HP or a Lenovo, you're going to get those BIOS updates whether you like it or not. They're now coming in without your permission or consent via Windows Update or through an update service that is software installed, like the Samsung has the Samsung, it used to be called the Updater. I think it's called the Device Care Package. They don't ask you. You will get that BIOS update whether you like it or not. So it's like saying, should I eat vegetables? I mean, if you want to. Well, I've heard that I should only eat vegetables if I have to. Well, you can wait until it gets that far along where you've poisoned your body with sugars and processed foods to a point where a doctor now tells you can't eat that anymore. Reduce your salt intake, reduce your sugar, reduce your carbs, and now you're forced to do it. That would be reactive. If you're asking me, should I be reactive or should I be proactive? It's like asking me if you should look both ways before crossing the street or just cross and deal with whatever happens. You know, I can hear a car, right? So what do I need to look? If I can't hear it, it's not there, kind of a thing. You do you. Whatever you feel is right for you is what you should do. I can't make the same decisions you make because I would likely ruin my reputation as being reliable and reputable or knowing what I'm doing when my customers have problems that could have been avoided with preventive steps to make sure the latest drivers and updates and BIOSes are always in place at all times. Not just for computer reliability and security, but also with regards to, what's the other one I'm missing? Performance. Now, it's hard to convince somebody they didn't have a problem because you did this thing. It's a very difficult sell. Carey, you make a big deal about antivirus, but I've never had a virus. Yeah, but you've always had antivirus. You could drive your car and never change the oil. It's entirely possible that you could drive your car, own it for many years, claim that changing your oil is a conspiracy, and never have a problem. Statistically, you're more likely going to have a severe and catastrophic engine problem the longer you go without changing the oil, as it degrades and becomes dirty through wear and tear. The metal's rubbing up against and tiny little glitter-like metal shavings get into it. Its viscosity starts to get significantly reduced. It starts being unable to flow through these narrow journals in your crankshaft and other areas that need lubrication, and you're blissfully unaware. Car still starts. You know, ignorance is bliss. So you will take your car in when it's working perfectly fine. It has no problems at all. And most of us will take the car into a shop and say, I want the oil changed. And you'll get the car back, and it's going to run and look exactly the same as it did when you turned it in. You might scratch your head and go, well, why'd you do that? If it's exactly the same now as it was before, and the only difference is you're inconvenienced, well, they had it and you didn't have it to drive it, because they can't work on it if you're driving it. You paid money to fix a problem you never had. We call that preventive maintenance. Now, that doesn't prevent you from having a catastrophic engine breakdown. That can occur for other reasons, a bad timing belt or such, causing a collision between the piston and the valve, or a transmission problem, which is completely unrelated, or a flat tire, or brakes, or a car accident that could total your car regardless of the condition of oil. But you're putting the odds in your favor that you're not going to have a catastrophic engine failure. But what would happen if you said, I don't want to do any more oil changes? What's going to happen? Don't know. No idea. And it won't be the same for everybody, depending on what you drive, the condition it's in, how often you drive it, how much wear and tear it's got on it. It's a lot of variables, the weather, all of it. How you drive is a part of that too. So if you choose to not get your oil changed anymore, nobody's forcing you to do it. And you might just end up selling the car and be done with it. Say, I don't know what the big deal was and never had a problem. Seems unlikely, but if that's a gamble you're willing to take and you'd rather be reactive and only take your car to the mechanic when it's broken, you can choose that way. You're not doing anything illegal. So that's my answer. Whatever decision you make, accept your consequences. There's nobody else's fault but your own. And Buck contributes $5 Australian. Thanks, mate. I'm new to the channel. Oh, he's not new to the channel. You've helped me a lot over the years. Well, thank you for the super chat. I'm glad to hear that I've helped. And, you know, again, if I'm being paid to do work for you, it's going to be done my way. But if you're asking me how you should do it, there's pros and cons to every side of it. And then you pick whichever way aligns with you, and set your expectation regardless, based on the decisions that you made, not the decisions I made. Because those are decisions that I make, I'm held accountable for, are my consequences too. The decisions you make, that's on you. So just have a realistic expectation of what to expect and proceed accordingly. Retro 93 says I did my motherboard upgrade and a CPU upgrade. I linked my Windows 7 retail key to my Microsoft account, but I still couldn't use it, and I had to buy a Windows 10 key. The free upgrade to Windows 10, let's put a timeline here, just so we're all on the same page. Windows 7 was released 16 years ago on October 22nd of 2009. 16 years, I don't know what else you have that's 16 years old that you still use today, but if it requires a license, you've probably had to renew the license since then. Whatever it is you've got that you're still using 16 years later that has a license, you've probably had a license renewal several times in the last 16 years. Now, Windows 7 free upgrade to Windows 10 ended years ago. Windows 10 is now 10 years old. It's 10 years old. And you want to move a license from a 16-year-old operating system to a 10-year-old operating system, and you want to expect that to work? Do you think that's a reasonable expectation to have? Windows 10, Windows 7 free upgrade to Windows 10 that offer was temporary. Every free upgrade offer is temporary. The free upgrade from Windows 10 to 11 is temporary. It won't always be that way. So it's not like this is unprecedented. This is the way it's been since day one. It's always been the same. So the Windows 7 free upgrade to 10 ended back in 2016. Holy crap. Holy crap. There was a loophole that people were able to use old Windows 7 keys to activate Windows 10 or 11. And now, whether or not Microsoft was aware of that loophole and just sort of looking the other way, playing dumb, at some point Microsoft said, we're not doing this anymore. And they closed that loophole back in September of 2023. So 2 years ago, almost exactly. But that loophole was Microsoft giving you a little wink that you're not really allowed to do this, but we won't tell if you don't tell. And then Microsoft said, okay, enough of that. And 7 years later said, okay, you can't do that anymore. 7 years after they said you couldn't do it, they were letting people do it an additional 7 years. Because officially, after 2016, you couldn't do the free upgrade from 7 to 10 anymore. But the loophole, I'm sure Microsoft knew exactly what they were doing, letting people get away. You know, if people feel like they're getting away with something, they'll be more likely to take it. If you offer it for free, they'll be more likely to dismiss its value. So it's a psychological manipulation on behalf of the PR company, is what I suspect. But yeah, 2023, they stopped allowing Windows 7 keys to activate Windows 10 or 11. The Windows 10 keys currently do work to activate 11, but that will also be shut down within a reasonable period of time. Microsoft says, look, we've given you all this time, so time's up. So as long as you get in under the expiration date, you're good. It's not going to resend anything from you, but it'll prevent any new activations from that point forward. But any existing, pre-existing will stay activated. That's just par for the course. It's the way it's always been. It's never been different than that. So I would say it would be unreasonable and perhaps a bit absurd to expect it any different. Besides, Windows 10 keys, you know, like VIP, what we're dealing with, VIP, CDK deals, and SCD keys, they're selling them for $15. I mean, really? I can't eat lunch at Arby's for $15 by myself. I don't see, you know, operating systems, it was typically $100 for a home version of Windows. That was the normal price. And before that, when you get to the days of IBM, operating systems were $2,000 to $5,000. And Microsoft was a big hero back in the day for offering an affordable operating system. And now people don't want to spend $15. I don't even have words. Scott mentions Windows 11 is nearly 4 years old already. Good point. Selden Bell says, when I selected to enroll in the extended security updates just now, it enrolled me without asking me how I'd pay. I had planned to use the 1,000 of my 6,600 Microsoft points and not the backup, and neither was charged. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. By the way, 1,000 Microsoft points is worth about $1, just so you know. It's the equivalent of $1. So even if it did charge him 1,000 points, it's nothing. Like, from my perspective, it's nothing. Victor Torres joins us, says hello. VX471 said I paid 15 pounds for a key when I didn't need one. Yeah, I mean, I paid $17 for a movie ticket to watch a movie I didn't enjoy. Not to mention the movie ticket of the person I went with, along with any concessions like a drink and popcorn. It's $60 to $80, and then turn around and leave the movie theater like that was a complete terrible experience. And yet, it's funny how people will spend money on the dumbest of things, but on anything critical, where this is really important, they don't want to spend a nickel. But in many cases, you can show them a trinket, and they've got to have the trinket to put on the shelf, and it doesn't do anything but sit on the shelf as a decoration. Or you can say this is critical to the quality of your life that's going to create a lot of panic and stress if you don't spend 15 bucks. And they'll do everything they can to not spend the 15 bucks. It's their choice, it's their money, but it's hard to feel sorry for them when they've accepted that. They've knowingly and willingly made a conscious decision to go down that road. I'm not going down that road with you. If you want to go down the right way, I'll help you out. But if you're trying to find a shortcut, good luck. I'm staying here. Not joining you on that journey. Carey, since I upgraded my motherboard and CPU, it takes longer to boot into Windows. The screen is black for a few minutes before the logon screen shows. Yeah, I need a lot more information. I need to know the make and model of the motherboard, the CPU, the amount of RAM, what storage you have. Is it Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5? Do you have any USB devices plugged in? Is this a clean install? Or is this an upgraded install of years and years of Windows rot that you're refusing to start over and you're carrying all that baggage over? Yeah, way too complex of a question for a live chat. But you could certainly, go down that path on our forums at CareyHolzman.boards.net. Post a little bit about your system, a little bit about its history, when you noticed it started slowing down. And then other commenters such as myself or viewers can then post publicly to ask you further follow-up questions to help guide you to where the issue is probably resolved or located so you can resolve it. But yeah, there's 1,000 different ways towards Sunday that it could be a condition that can result in these symptoms, and we have to whittle down, and so it requires a lot of back and forth. Not ideal for a live show, but yeah, CareyHolzman.boards.net. You can post there right now. It's open 24/7. It's completely free. If you're still using a mechanical drive, that's the issue. Switch it over to a solid state drive. That computer will boot in about 13 seconds. Carey, what is your favorite Windows OS? That's what VX471 has. I'm not a home enthusiast. I don't know how many times I have to keep saying it, but some people just don't understand. They can't wrap their mind around it. There is no such thing as a favorite. I work on computers for a living. Every computer that I've ever worked on, I have to thank for my career. And some computers I've worked on were more difficult than others, but that's usually because I was still learning, or it's a relatively new experience. And so that takes, it can be frustrating, right, to get it sorted out, especially if it's unfamiliar. But that doesn't mean it's bad. And it's not my favorite because I'm more familiar with it and I can get around it more comfortably. It pays the same one way or the other. So I don't have a favorite. Every one of them is my favorite. As far as Windows operating systems go, I have a career thanks to Windows. I would not have had a career without Windows. I would not have had a career in Linux. I would not have had a career in Apple. I would not have a career in Android or iOS. The only way I had a career, this career, was Windows. Without Windows, I might be an auto mechanic. It's really hard to say which direction my life would have taken. So there is no favorite Windows. Everyone is my favorite equally. And to go back in any way to say the older was better is denying all of the evolution of the technology. So you're saying you don't like Wi-Fi, you're saying you don't like flash drives, you like slow, limited Blu-rays or DVDs or CDs, you like old-fashioned sound cards and IRQs you have to set, you like having to power off the power to the computer, waiting for like Windows XP to say, it is now safe to turn off your computer. It doesn't turn off by itself anymore. You like having no broadband internet. You like dial-up access. I mean, I'm not Amish. Whatever the latest and greatest, for the most part, once it's had some time to burn in, I'm on board with it, whatever it is. But when it first comes out, give it a little time. It's like getting that slice of pizza hot out of the oven and burn the roof of your mouth. Let it cool down. I know you're hungry and you want to take a bite of that pizza. I'm telling you, that fried chicken just came out of the fryer. You better let it sit about 10 to 20 minutes in your mouth for the next 2 weeks. Well, that's what new tech is like. So anytime something new comes out, unless it's just a polished version of something from before, when it's a brand new type of tech, like NVMe drives, I'm not the first one to jump on them. If it's Windows 12, I won't be the first one to jump on it. If it's an upgrade like Windows 25 H2, once it goes through beta and it's released publicly, I'll jump on it right away because it's a polished version of something that's pre-existing. But if it never existed before and it's a first generation product, that's that hot pizza, that's the hot, just out of the fryer chicken. I just need to be patient, let other people go first. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit. And I miss cigarettes and French fries fried in pure lard. Do you know why people, like when I was growing up, when somebody was 40, 50 years old, they look like they're a grandpa. But I look around at my generation and people don't look their age. Mitch doesn't look his age. I don't know anybody these days that really looks like people used to look. If you look at Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor, I think he was 47 years old when he played that role initially. He looks like he's 60. Now look at Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd doesn't look like he's aged in 30 years. And probably that has to do with the smoking and the drinking of society that was really popular and that can really age somebody. And you know, a lot of jobs, you didn't have the equipment and tools in manual labor that we have today in construction and assembly line work, where there's automated tools that help guide and lift up the weight of things that have to be moved. Like if you're installing the seats in a car, you're not physically lifting the seats anymore. There's a machine that hangs from the ceiling that hangs the seat, and you have articulating hinges that you can bring that around and set it into the car. And then you're not turning a wrench. You've got a power tool that's already preset to the right torque setting, and you push the button and hold it until it clicks. And in many cases, like if you've seen them put tires on at an assembly factory, a car assembly, they put all 5 lug nuts on at the same time. There's a tool that hangs from the ceiling. They line it up over, it's a big round tool. It goes over all 5 of the lug nuts. They push a button and all 5 turn and lock in, and then they remove it and they go to the next one. But my grandfather, if he was working unloading railroad cars in Detroit in winter, he was physically picking up and moving boxes and such. So I think that's why, you know, when he was as old as I remember him, which was about in his 60s, he looked like he was in his 80s or 90s by today's the way people look today. So I don't often look back on the old time, like that far back. but as being ideal. For as much as I enjoyed the 80s, I was a teenager, and there was a lot of turmoil with regards to trying to earn a living at $3.35 an hour. I wasn't going to be buying a house. Nobody I knew bought a house. One person. And I think they had help from their parents. It wasn't until my generation was in their 30s and 40s of people I know and people I grew up with, they were starting to be able to buy a house. So I wouldn't want to go through that again. But on the other hand, we were also kids and we had no responsibilities, very little, and things were fun. Well, we're just at the 2-hour mark here, so if you guys have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to address them as best I can. Just hanging out on a Saturday night. See, now if this was the 80s, I'd probably be going to the club. Actually, not yet. It's too early. I'd probably be going to the club in about 2 hours and be back probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. These days, just hang out and make a YouTube video. It's funny to me because I'd look at myself and go, damn, you got old. Nasir says hello in our chat room. Welcome in. Retro said, I want to clone my hard drive to a solid state drive. Most solid state drives that you buy will come with a free copy of Acronis if you go to the website of the manufacturer. So let's say, for example, if we come over here, because you'll see content creators that go, oh, there's a free utility you can grab to do this. And yeah, that's an option. I like to use Acronis, and Acronis makes deals with all the big drive manufacturers, AData, Western Digital, SanDisk. So if you go over to your drive manufacturer, which is the full screen over here. Say you bought a Western Digital SSD. So we'll type in Western Digital Acronis. It'll likely take you to a support page where you can download a free copy of Acronis designed to be used on Western Digital drives through a special arrangement between Western Digital and Acronis. And the level at which Acronis works could work for a lot of features, or it may just be cloning. It doesn't matter if you're cloning to or from, as long as the manufacturer's drive is one or the other, then the Acronis doesn't care about what the other drive in the equation is. Could be literally any manufacturer. I'm not sure if we just start listing off like big names like, I don't know, AData maybe? AData with the word Acronis. Just type in your manufacturer with the word Acronis and then see if there's a support page from the manufacturer. This is all Acronis. I don't see it. So did I spell it right? What about add link? I'm not sure on some of these. Now Samsung, they make their own stuff. So if you have Samsung, you would use Samsung software. So here for add link, they're another SSD maker. Maybe there's a download for Acronis, maybe not. And then of course, our friend Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-Tos. We type in Mike's Unboxing free clone. Yeah, close enough. Best free disk cloning and drive magician. So I trust Mike. He gives good advice. I don't know this software, but if he says it's good, it's good. And that's another way you can do it for free. And there's probably a dozen other ways you can do it for free, but I'm not standing behind any of those other ways. Depends. Some tools are pretty difficult to use. Some are all text-based, and things like CloneZilla, you've got to be much more tech-savvy to use it. And if you want to go down that path, enjoy it without me. I'm not saying it won't work. I just think it's way more complex. Macrium Reflect is another tool that used to be free, but now they charge for it. But the first place I would look is from the drive manufacturer. that you're copying to or from, and see if there's a free Acronis there, because Acronis is so simple and reliable. Anybody can use it regardless of experience, and that's why I recommend it so highly. Now, how this suggestion from Mike's Unboxing compares, I don't know. I have no clue. Why would I? Acronis works for me. I bought it, and that's what I choose to use. I don't need to use anything else. Because I bought it, I can use it on any drive as often as I want, along with all the other features. So Mike here is showing in this video, it's only 11 minutes long, a demonstration, something called Disk Genius, which I guess does the trick, and he walks you through how to use it. Might be worth checking out. Mike is based in the UK, and if you're in the UK, you're interested in the side of the perspectives that they have there that may differ for various reasons, highly recommend his channel. He does very good work. Lou in the chat says Disk Genius is nice for cloning. There you go. KK Bronson said about a month ago, I woke up and looked at my hands and I realized I got old overnight. The alternative is that you'd never get old ever again. And you didn't wake up. You were forever young. Things to be grateful for. Robert Jones said, I've heard that NASCAR glue the lug nuts to the rims to mount the tires faster. Yeah, that's true. NASCAR and F1, essentially, if you're a pit crew, you need to get the tires off and on that car quickly, you know, under 20 seconds. So somebody's going to jack up the car. There's going to be one person per tire. And the preparation is that you have the tires stacked and ready to go. You cannot reuse lug nuts on race cars. You can't trust them. High speeds, high pressures, high demands, you use them once and then you throw them away. So you take brand new lug nuts, you take a little silicone like a glue, and you lay the tire down and you glue the lug nuts over the holes. It's not really gluing, but it's kind of like gluing. And then when the car rolls up and that person that's doing that tire, they've got their air gun, they go zip, 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 zip. Those lug nuts fly off. The tire gets pulled off. The new tire gets put on. And since the lug nuts are already over the holes and stuck with this like silicone, then all you do is tighten each one up, zip, 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 because you're breaking the glue free, but you're not fumbling around trying to get the thing started and making sure you don't cross thread. It's a huge time saver. And then the car drives off, and then somebody will clean all those loose lug nuts up off the ground so they don't kick up and smack into anybody and hurt somebody. And those get thrown likely into a recycle bin to be melted down and never used ever again. Yeah, so that's true. And you'll see it if you just watch any race, you can see it. Some of the Indianapolis type Indy cars, they'll have just one big bolt in the middle that comes off. That's kind of cool. Trend Leader said, I was 13 the other day and now I'm 35. Well, I was 15 the other day and I'm still 15, at least. No, actually, I think in my generation, we grew up really quickly. We kind of had to raise ourselves. So by 15, I was already 30. But now, getting closer to 60, I'm still 30. We got up there and then we just stopped. That is Generation X. We're all like 30 years old. And we've been that way since we were teenagers. I'm speaking on behalf of a generation. Jim Kenny having a birthday. Right on. Happy birthday to Jim Kenny. Give him a shout of happy birthday there. Retro says, what SSD brand comes with the software? Most of the big brands, the big name brands, with the exception of Samsung. And then the brands we don't really hear much about, like Feijing and the others we were showing, like a Ricoh, those are your discount brands. There's no fluff added, so you don't expect it on those. But that free software from Mike's Unboxing will work regardless. If you're curious, when you're looking at a brand, when you're shopping, just hit up Google like I did and just type in the brand name with the word Acronis and see if, like with Western Digital, the support page came up and there was a download. If it doesn't come up, then it's safe to assume that they have not partnered with Acronis. I don't know if Acronis has a master list of who they've partnered up with, but they partnered up with a bunch of big drive manufacturers. Not like one or two, there's a bunch. But they're all big name brands. Samsung doesn't use anybody else's controllers. The whole Phison controller, whatever. Samsung has never used anybody's controllers but their own, and they don't use anybody's software but their own custom-written software, like the Samsung Magician. So Samsung's the anomaly in all of that, where they're just better than everybody else, as far as they're concerned. Christian Royce said he turned 40 the other day. He spent a lot of the day going for a long walk and reflecting. Age is just a number. Time is a human construct. We created it, and now we never have enough of it. We'll just create some more. Scott says, Carey, you still have a few years before 60. Turning 59 seemed worse than turning 60 this year. Well, the time marches forward whether you're ready or not, and it marches with you or without you regardless. So be glad you're still marching along. That's the best you can hope for. Trade Leader said, I'd be going to the arcade to play Galaga. The arcade closed at 9 o'clock, so I'd have about 2 hours. And after that, you didn't have to go home, but you couldn't stay there. Selden mentions the video output. We lost some video output on the capture card. I'm not sure why that happened. I didn't notice it. It wasn't very long. It just kind of blacked out and came back. It's possible the streaming computer was doing something in the background, like a driver update that I don't know about. Again, it's sort of like crying over spilled milk. It's not leaving a mess. There's no residue. There's no side effects. So, move on. You stub your toe. Okay, it hurts. We get it. Move on. There's not any long-term consequences there. And probably nothing we can do to avoid it. It's just timing. But if it continues to be a problem, maybe I've got a bad cable. I go through these cables. I'm pretty rough on them. They're not really intended to be cables to be plugged and unplugged all the time. They're very thin, flexible cables, and so about once a year I have to replace them. But I'm usually reactive. I'm not usually proactive on that because it's not a big deal. When things are stressful, then I try to be more proactive, but that's not stressful. That's simple. Aaron says he loves Acronis. It's an awesome tool. Oh, I agree. I still use it. We don't really talk much with Acronis lately, but I still love the product. I still use it. And I think I've been using it now for the last 16 years, since I think 2009. I think if I look at my purchase history, I can still download 2009 with my product key. Acronis stores all that for you when you make your purchase. That way you can always get the software anytime you need it. Add your product key to activate it. They store all that. And that was optional. I don't know why somebody wouldn't have registered the product.
But nowadays, it's all happening automatically for the most part. When you activate it, it makes you create an account and you provide your activation key. And at that point, you have a permanent record. If you ever need to download that software and you don't have it, just log in. And not only do you get the software, but you don't even have to worry about the product key anymore because you're signed in. When you install the software, it recognizes your login and says, oh, this is your code. It does it all automatically for you now. I wish every piece of software was like that. Our friend Dennis is working on a utility to fix the network browsing issue. For me, I don't want to log in. I don't want a password. I want to share my network folders, whether it's on a NAS or on a computer. I want to share them openly on my local area network. I don't want the internet to have access, just my local area network. And after a Windows 11 update, it started requiring user accounts for security reasons, which really pissed me off because it's making an assumption that you need security in your own house. So there's a PowerShell command to set that back to guest fallback. And you'll see me apply it all the time when I'm setting up new computers so I can access the network. And then once you do it, you're good to go forever. So Dennis, one of our viewers, was watching and he said, you know, I could make a tool to automate that. And I said, really? Because I'd love to be able to just click a button and have to copy and paste these PowerShell commands. And he's shown us a release candidate. In other words, we've been through the betas and he's working on polishing that. And he's going to turn it over to us to offer to the community. He's putting the time and effort into it. And he's like, what else? What other projects you got? So I love that because I got a lot of projects. Also, I talked to Nick at D7X Tech about the Windows 11 optimization tool. And he said, what are your thoughts? And then I sent him back 3 pages of requests of what I want to see. I don't know how much of it he can do. And he said, okay, that'll keep me busy a while. I'll get back to you. So he's got his homework. I don't expect to have a Windows 11 optimization tool available likely until next year. But it's done when it's done. And in the meantime, if there's little bits and pieces that Dennis wants to bite off on the optimization tool, well, you know, we can give him that little project too. He seems to enjoy it. We enjoy having him. And when we release it, the biggest concern I have is it's going to show up as an unsigned program, just like a virus. And Microsoft is going to say, hey, we don't know what this is. You better be careful. So I'm still trying to find a workaround for that. But in the meantime, you just say, we'll run it anyway, and it's fine. And then we'll have some folks who want to test it for us, let us know if it works for them. And I imagine there might be some scenarios that we hadn't dreamed up that you'll update the code, update the version. We went through that with the Windows 10 optimizer. We went through a few versions, revisions. And yeah, I'm just happy to just have that contribution from somebody with those skills and talents willing to share them with the community. I never saw that coming, and appreciate it. Okay, well, I think that is it. I don't see much else happening here in the chat room. Basically, the gist of it is you should be seeing the extended security updates if you've installed all the latest updates for Windows 10. and that assumes you're running Windows 10 Home or Pro. If that's not the case and you'd like some assistance, I believe there's a way to force it. It might be a little premature to use the brute force method, but if you're interested in that, go to our forums and explain the situation, and we'll do our best to help guide you to a solution, including, if you want to know the method to force it, we can try that. I haven't tried it myself, but my understanding is there's a command line to kind of kick it off. You'll still have to go through the enrollment. There's no command line to replace the product key that's needed to authorize you for updates. That will come from Microsoft once you've enrolled. And it's no different than any other product key. It's a long, complex series of numbers and letters. The difference is you don't enter it. Microsoft does it. Microsoft creates it and applies it to your machine. Once it's been applied to your machine, you no longer must be signed into a Microsoft account ever again with regards to that machine continuing to get updates for the next 12 months. Do I miss Windows 95? Anytime I miss Windows 95 or I'm nostalgic for anything, I really appreciate YouTube for that. Because if I had an old Atari 400 or a TRS-80 Model 1, because I wanted to relive those days when I used that on an everyday basis, it's a lot of work to get it all out of the attic and hook it all up, find an adapter to go, say from the Atari into an RCA connector for red, yellow, green, or video, and then left and right audio. We would have to convert that to HDMI to plug it into a modern monitor, or I'd have to source up an old vintage CRT. So what I would do whenever I feel nostalgic is I come back over, like for example over here, I'll show you. I go over to YouTube and I think about what was it like to play one of my favorite games on the TRS-80 Model 1. There's a game called Android Nim, and it was on the TRS-80 Model 1. Now somebody else has already set all this up, and there it is right there. And I don't have to lift a finger, and this is exactly what it looked like. I spent hours and hours and hours playing this strategy game. It's a lot of fun, and it was amazing. And if I can't remember what the heck it looked like, I can just click another video and get past the advertising here, and I can see exactly that computer, exactly the same as what I had. That's it right there. Nostalgia, done. You know what I mean? On my Atari 400, I used to play a game I liked, which I thought was graphically amazing, and it was called what was it called? I can't think of the name of it. What was the name of that? Well, while I'm thinking about it, there was a game I loved to play called Boulder Dash. It was like a knockoff of Dig Dug, and I spelled it wrong. I spent hours and hours. Why does it say Commodore 64? Atari Boulder Dash. There it is. Yeah. This was a fun game. I mean, great music and everything. I just really enjoyed this game a lot. Another one I played a lot was called wow, I'm just starting to sometimes just remembering the games. I used to play Blue Max. That was a lot of fun. And these were, back in the day, the great graphics and sound, by the way, especially compared to like a 2600 or something, and almost has like a Zaxxon kind of feel to it with the shadow on the ground to give you some idea of how high up or how close to the ground you are. So it took a little perspective shifting to really get it. I still can't think of the name of that. I used to play Ball Blazer, and that was a Lucasfilm game that was intended for 2 players, but you could it's split screen, and the idea is that you're on this field and you need to grab a ball and go to the opposite end like soccer, but you look like a toilet. I don't know why, that's just what graphics were back then. And you could play it with one person, yourself, against the machine, or you could play against another live player. Someone would be the top screen and someone would be the bottom screen. And depending on who got the ball would hover left and right in front of the screen. You'd have a countdown, so whoever got to 5 scores first, or whoever had the most amount of points at the end of the countdown, won the game. So the top player has the ball, how it's shifting left and right. That means you're in possession. There's the goalpost. Fire, that throws the ball straight, goes through the goalpost. You got a point. And now the ball's released in the middle. Whoever gets to it first grabs it, runs to the other end. A great soundtrack to this. And the goalposts are moving. They're slowly moving left and right across the field. And yeah, the other player, at the bottom screen, you can see the top player. And on the top screen, if you turn just right, there he is. There's the bottom player, the orange player there. Played the heck out of that. But I remember there was a game on the Atari. God, there were so many games I played. There was a submarine game. I can't think of what it was called. It was, isn't it weird I can remember the name of the programmer? That's how much of a nerd I am. His name was Russ. He made Preppy. Preppy was like a Frogger alternative. Russ Wetmore, yeah. Preppy was a fun game. But he also made this other submarine game. So if I type in Wetmore here, it should pull up the submarine game, which should be in here somewhere. Maybe I'll just type submarine. That'll tell me what it was called. Why am I not finding it? Let me Google that. Sometimes I gotta Google it. I'm so far off on the names. Russ Wetmore. Really helps if I type it in here. Russ Wetmore, Atari submarine game. Sea Dragon. Sea Dragon. Okay. Oh man, I love me some Sea Dragon. There it is. Oh yeah. Good time. See, I can live out all this nostalgia. I don't have to actually go and put the games on and hook up the equipment when I can just watch somebody else play it and I can remember it. I mean, it all comes back like riding a bicycle. I remember this level, you know. And the one that's killing me right now, the reason it's killing me, it was one of my favorites and it was pretty unknown. It was an Atari game that featured a little girl chasing a balloon. And it had a dog with a jetpack. So if I could just type those keywords, it'll probably pull up. Not so much. So there's a list of game programmers. There's a giant list of classes. That's Color Computer. No, I got to get rid of Russ Wetmore because he had nothing to do with it. 50 games, all the games I couldn't include. And it was a side scroller. And I just thought the graphics, it just blew me away. It's a 4-letter name, and I just, oh, it's killing me. Maybe I need to say it's a game. Oops. Atari 400 game, dog with jetpack. Especially these, where they might even show some games I forgot all about. And then when I watch these, I go, oh, wow, yeah. Oh, he's got the little mini Atari 400. You know, I ordered one of those, and it's sitting at Studio 8, new in a box. I've never even hooked it up. Oh, yeah, BC. The Quest for Tires. I played that. Time Pilot, sure, that was in the arcade. Necromancer, it wasn't my favorite, but it did have a following. Montezuma's Revenge was like a Donkey Kong Wizard of War. Boom, yeah, we played all these. Arkanoid wasn't my favorite, it was like Breakout. Pitfall, I was never a Pitfall fan. Super Cobra, oh yeah, that was just like the submarine game, but with a helicopter. And also, was it Mission to Mars? They were all kind of similar, but that was vertical. Let's see, Drop Zone, I never played. Dreadnought, I never heard of. Rescue and Fractalis was, that's not the game I played the exact same game from Lucasfilm, but it was called Behind Jagai Lines. I don't know why it had two titles. Space Dungeon, Last Squadron. Boy, that looks exactly like that looks exactly like the arcade game. Astro Blaster. Oh, Bosconian. Yeah, I played the heck out of Bosconian. There's one I forgot all about. Prince of Persia, I wasn't a big fan. Where does Bosconian go? I haven't seen that in forever. There it is. Oh yeah. So this is one where your ship stays in the middle of the screen, and the screen moves around you. So you have like a radar on the right side with the blinking white dot and red dot, and that shows you your position on the map. And so the map is huge, and you're just seeing a screen at a time. Kind of similar to an arcade game called Sinistar. Not too far from that. Might have been inspired by that. But I'll be darned if I can't think of the game that I was after. Let me go back over to the chat room. Maybe you guys are mentioning stuff. It's a 4-letter word. It was never in the arcades. It was graphically, it just blew my mind. By today's standards, it looks terrible, but back then, I mean, it was a big program. It took a while to load. Heck was the name of that game? It's gonna bug me now until I figure it out. So if I wanted to see Windows 95, you know, you can just go to YouTube and somebody's got a retro machine hooked up with Windows 95 and they show you the boot process. Somebody's gone through all the trouble of hooking it all up and showing exactly how it works. What's the name? I wonder if Copilot might know. What is the name of Atari 400 game that has a little girl chasing a red balloon? There was also a dog with a jetpack. Now, keeps bringing up a game called Bristles. This is not what it was. I don't even know what that is. This was a side-scrolling game from the 1980s. Moon Patrol? Come on. Patrol. That's an arcade game. That's well known. This would not have been well known. The brain is funny that way. I can remember it when I'm not thinking of it. I can see the game. I can play it in my head. And I can't think of what the title was. Atari, let's try Atari 800 side-scrolling game with Android on and Red Balloon. You know, it's a tough one when even I can't Google it and find it. I will find it. It will be mine. Now it's becoming personal. Retro wants to know my opinion on using VPNs. VPNs are for protecting customer data. If you don't have customers, you don't need a VPN, in my opinion. That's stuff for businesses that people at home get caught up in. They get swept in, like, I'm so important, I have to use business class stuff, whatever. People at home using Windows Pro. You don't need Windows Pro. People at home wanting to use BitLocker. That's for protecting your customer stuff, man. If you don't have customers, they're just scrupulous, unscrupulous sellers that'll be happy to take your money to sell you something you don't need, that'll slow your internet connection down because you think people want your data and nobody wants your data. Maybe a hacker wants to encrypt it and sell it back to you, but even they don't want it. The only one that has value to is you. But if you're responsible for your customers' data, different story. And that's what that's for. You may not have a cash register in your house either. You could go buy one. Is that a cash register in your house? Yeah, you want a Gatorade? How much is it? Why would you have that in your house? So you can, but that's not who it's for. You could have a payphone in your house too. Go ahead. But really? All right, let me think about, Retro says, what about getting doxxed? Not getting doxxed. What does that got to do with a VPN? How are those two things related? I don't understand. You're gonna have to fill me in on how you think doxing works, because I think you know some terms, but you don't really understand. Usually if your personal information, like your full name and address and phone number, is exposed publicly, it's because you put it out there. Maybe you have a house and the title of the house is in your name. That's public record. Maybe you've been to court or been processed by the police department, and everything about that is public record. So if that's the case, then you're not really being doxxed. It's just somebody taking your public information and then just recopying that and spreading it out. And you can use a service like Incognito or Undelete Me, and they can go through and look for your name and address published publicly as they would in a phone book, for crying out loud. Are you old enough to know what a phone book is? The information in a phone book isn't doxing you. You voluntarily put it there. So that has nothing to do with a VPN whatsoever. It's like saying, should I eat a hamburger or a hot dog? Well, I don't know. Which shoes am I wearing? Which question are we answering? One has nothing to do with the other. But if you understand it differently, then help me understand your question, because I don't understand how those two things are related. All right, so what was the name of that game? Swear to God, I'm gonna find that. Man, I'll tell you what. I can see it. It's driving me crazy. You passed that point an hour ago. Let me go over here. Atari 400 game multi-level side scroller. Four-letter name. Droll. See, I just had to type in the right search terms. So if I come back over here and go back over to this machine, this will give you some concept of what was just mind-blowing sound and graphics compared to today. There it is. Gotta wait for the ad. There it is. Yeah. Rudderbund. They're the ones who did it. Okay. Okay. And yeah, everything had a bubble kind of look to it. You know, the font and everything. There were like these scorpions that bounced around. Oh, she had a blue balloon. Okay. And then you'll see like a dog with a jetpack. There's your map up above showing where all the enemies are. And then the blinking white dot on the middle level there is you. So you kind of have to, oh, there's the dog. Or is he an alligator? Maybe he's an alligator. They're all these weird aliens. The game was so brightly colored and the music was so incredible. And like I said, it took a while to load this game up. It was a pretty big program. It was a lot of fun. And it was something, as far as I know, I don't think other platforms had this game. But maybe Commodore had it. Maybe Apple had it. I don't know. But, you know, that's what got me into this, was wanting to play games like this. That's what got me into my career. When the games didn't work and I had to figure out why, that turned into a job, right? Fixing computers. And that's how it all started, right there. All right, I think I can shut that off. Oh, I will show you, if you have questions after the show or anytime at all, just go to CareyHolzman, no T in my name, .boards.net. And then under general discussion, come hang out with us. Start your own thread, talk about whatever you want. There's Dennis with the Nano KVM Finder, and you will soon see the network fix application as he's polishing that. And if you have ideas for Dennis as far as little applications that we can code to preferably automate repetitive procedures, leave your suggestions in there for him as well. That's open for everybody. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay anything. And it's a great place to hang out and not only to talk with myself and Mara, but with each other as well. Since we're all in different parts of the planet and different time zones, those messages just stay indefinitely. And then you respond to it whenever you respond to it. Yeah, it's a great way to get some problems solved, especially ones involving a lot of detail where we got to keep asking follow-up questions, where we can drill down with those questions, and then other people can also chime in their thoughts too to help you find a solution to whatever it is you're trying to resolve. It's a very helpful community. Yeah, Tom Jackson got it, droll. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a fun hangout. Again, if you're struggling with still seeing the extended security updates being offered to you, I think I can recommend that you go visit our forums, tell us a little bit about your computer, verify that you've got Windows 10 Home or Pro, and verify that you have all the latest updates installed. And then from there, we can move forward. Always check your date and time. It's always the simple things, you know. Sometimes people's date and time get screwed up. They have no idea. So one very basic, simple step is just glance over to the bottom right corner of your computer. It doesn't have to be right onto the second, but if you're more than a few hours off or a few days or months off, all kinds of weird computer problems can happen that have a very simple fix. Just change the date and time. And that's always a good place to start. Always start with the easy things because that fixes it 80% of the time. Those 20% remaining, there's something else going on that we have to dig a little deeper for. So that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you found the information helpful. And obviously, if you have further questions, you can leave them in the comments, but I would recommend the forums be a more appropriate place if you want to get a response sooner. And also, you can email us. The email address right here on the screen, showcasecreate@gmail.com. Now, tomorrow, I've got a couple of laptops from our friends at Nemo. And yes, I just did a Nemo laptop. This is different because these are the exact same laptop, except one is a 17-inch screen and one is a 15-inch screen. I've never seen a company do that before. So I thought, well, there's no reason to make two videos, you know, uniquely for each of these laptops. When the only difference between them is screen size, we can do two at the same time. They're the same machine, priced accordingly. And this is what I like about Nemo is they have these little granular changes that they offer that most manufacturers don't. It can be pretty costly in manufacturing to do something simple like changing the color. It's quite costly. So we talk about changing the entire case to fit a 17-inch screen, but all the internals are the same. You know, the keyboard's got to fit, the trackpad, everything's still got to fit with that 17-inch screen. It's quite expensive. You might be surprised the manufacturing costs of something you think would be pretty simple, but it's far from simple. It's so unique that I've never seen a laptop manufacturer do that. In fact, I've never seen a laptop manufacturer sell a bare bones laptop other than like Framework, which is really expensive. I'm also not aware of a laptop manufacturer that offers 90-day returns, is assembled in America, has an American return repair facility, and furthermore, has a 90-day return policy. So that sounds like it would be expensive, but they're one of the cheapest, if not the least expensive laptops you can get as equipped, where you can buy a similarly equipped laptop without the warranty, without the support, without the 90-day return policy for the same price from Asian manufacturers. Why would you spend the same amount of money when you can get all the peace of mind that comes with the warranty, that extended return window, and the variable options of getting it bare bones so you can put your own RAM and storage and operating system on it? Who does that? And all for a very aggressive price that I would challenge you to find a better deal at the same price, find something equivalent or better from any other manufacturer. And it will only fall short either in warranty, support, return policy, or just quality of materials. They're easy to get into. I know I sound like it's a commercial, but I'm super enthusiastic that this brand exists, and yet nobody's ever heard of them. That is a gross injustice. So we're just spreading the word. Be aware of it and do your own research. Decide for yourself, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better laptop for the money with regards to not only the quality and the actual components you're getting, but also the return and support. They even extend that to 3 years. I believe they add an extra year if you register it. You get 3 years? Really? That sounds expensive. It's not. Well, it sounds like it would be pricey. It's one of the cheapest you can buy that has that level of equipment, if not the cheapest, the least expensive. And I challenge anybody to find me one that is equipped similarly for the same price or less. And if you can find it, please tell me, because I want to know. As far as I can tell, Nemo's kind of leading the way here, and they're doing it quietly. Nobody's paying attention. I'm saying, have you seen this? That's all I'm saying. It's not a commercial. All right. Not that it's anything wrong with a commercial. I don't do that. I'm just telling you, I'm genuinely enthusiastic about this. If you're not seeing what I'm seeing, one of us is missing something. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you guys for hanging out. We will see you all again tomorrow at 1 o'clock, the usual time, with the Nemo laptop review. Until next time, bye for now.